Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody, and we will get started. The story we read on Monday was called... Hang on, that didn't work. Yeah. The story we read on Monday was called The Joy of Ships. We read all about ships, and we were talking about how things get built. So that story was all about how ships are built. Give me a thumbs up if you remember that. Do you remember reading that story about how ships were built? Yeah. So today, the story that we're going to read is called Building Bridges. What do you guys think this story is going to be about? What do we think building bridges is going to be about? Do you think we're going to learn about boats again? Probably not. Sorboni, what do you think? You have to unmute yourself.
They're gonna build a bridge.
Yeah, it'll probably be about building bridges. This is the cover of it. Remember, you guys don't have this in your book, so right now you're just listening. Who can look at this and tell me, do we think this is a fiction or a non-fiction story? Do we think this is a fiction or a non-fiction story? Mabuba.
Fiction.
It's not a fiction story. It's not a fiction story. This is a non-fiction story because if you look at that picture, it shows a picture of a real bridge. And I think in this story, we're going to learn some real facts about how bridges are built. So go ahead and listen with me as I read. It says, building bridges. Remember, you guys don't have this story, so you don't need your book open right now. Right now, you're just listening to what I'm reading. What?
My name was Irving.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to read it. It's called Building Bridges. People build bridges to get from one point to another. Bridges go across water or land. They can be miles long or only a few feet. Let's look at some of the world's most interesting bridges. So we're going to look at some interesting bridges. This bridge in this picture, it says this bridge in France goes across a wide valley. It is the tallest car bridge in the world. So it's a really tall bridge. The Sunshine Skyway Bridge in Florida stretches for 4 miles. This is a cable-stayed bridge. Sturdy wires help this bridge stay up. The wires joined at the tall towers so they don't fall. An arch bridge is like an upside-down U. This bridge has 2 arches for boats to go under. The arches are the same size, which helps balance the bridge. This bridge in Italy is made of brick. That bridge is 2,000 years old. Pretty cool. So it said that they use the first bridge uses cables to keep the bridge standing. It helps hold it up. The Firth of Forth Bridge in Scotland is a truss bridge. It is a bridge above a river. Do you see the triangles on it? The roadway needs to be supported. The triangle tubes support it. The triangles join each section of the bridge. So that's what they're looking at. That's called a truss bridge. Cars pay a toll or money to cross the Golden Gate Bridge in California. If you guys remember yesterday or on Monday, Hendrix had the Golden Gate Bridge behind her. It was her Zoom background. So this is in California. It says this suspension bridge also has cables. The cables are supported by the towers. Why is the bridge painted such a bright color? The builders knew it needed to stand out in the fog, so they avoided colors like gray and painted it a joyful orange. That is the Golden Gate Bridge. Some bridges are one of a kind. Rolling Bridge is in London, England. What happens when a boat comes toward the bridge? The bridge rises up and curls into a circle so that the boats can pass. There are many kinds of bridges. So look at this bridge. That's that bridge when it's flat. And then when a boat comes, it curls up in a ball like that. Isn't that cool? So, now you guys can go ahead and get out your Wonders book. Now you can go ahead and get out your Wonders book. And we are going to open it up to page 148. Page 148. Go ahead and open it up there. Page 148. Hendrix, what's your question? Hit your mute button, babe.
What page it was again? I didn't quite hear.
Page 148. 148. Give me a thumbs up when you are there. Good, Ronan. Good, Mabuba. We're going to answer some questions about that story we just read. About that story we just read. Which means I need this still. Okay, so the first question wants to know. Why do some bridges have cables? Who remembers? The first page that we read talked about the Sunshine Skyway Bridge in Florida. Who remembers why did those bridges have cables that went down the side? Does anybody remember? Does anybody have a guess? What might those cables do for the bridge? What might those cables do for the bridge? Amika, what do you think? Hit your mute button. There you go.
Hold up the bridge.
Yeah, they help the bridge stand up. So some bridges have cables because they help hold up the bridge. They help hold that bridge up. So go ahead and copy that down.
Dabrowski.
What, Ziad?
I can't find the page.
You're going to have to ask somebody there for help, honey. I can't come through the computer and open it for you.
My mom is in the shower.
Okay. Well, can you ask?
Dabrowski,
What, honey?
I don't know the page.
Page 148. 148.
I got 1 through 5.
You what?
I got 1 through 5 or 6.
In number 5, unit 5. You should be on page 148 in your unit 5 book. Give me a thumbs up when you are done copying that down. Awesome, Mabuba. Zia, did you find the page? What, Hendrix? Or Boris, what?
I'm not finding it.
Okay, you're going to have to ask for help, honey. Ask your mom or dad or your sister for help.
I'm telling my sister.
Okay. Page 148, Boris. Take about 10 more seconds, then we're going to talk about the next one. All right, let's talk about the next one. If you didn't finish copying it down, that's okay. I'll show it again in a second. The next one asks us, what is the same about the arch bridge and the rolling bridge? So let's look at both of those. Let's look at both of those. About the arch bridge and the rolling bridge. This is a picture of the arch bridge. That's the arch bridge. So you see it's got that bend that looks like an upside down U. And now let's look at the rolling bridge. The rolling bridge. How do they look the same to you? That's the rolling bridge. How do they look the same? How do they look the same? What's similar about them? Remember the arch bridge is like an upside down U and the rolling bridge kind of did that. How do they look the same to you? Hendrix, how do they look the same?
They're both bridges, and they both have where you can cross.
Yeah, they're both bridges and you can walk across both of them. That's good, Hendrix. And they also both have a curve to them. Where a lot of bridges just go straight, these bridges have a curve to them. So but Hendrix, you are absolutely right. They are both bridges. They both have a curve. They both have a curve. So go ahead and copy that down. Ouch.
Miss Sabowski,
What?
I am done.
Fabulous.
Sabowski,
Yes.
I'm done.
Okay, you guys don't need to tell me, just finish up. Give me a thumbs up when you are done copying. Good, Straboni. Good, Hendrix. Good, Boris. Good, Ronan. Good, Mabuba. Good, Mariah. Good, Amid. Okay. Who can remember? I'm looking at this page now. The next page over, page 149. Does anybody remember what kind of metal was used to make the ships and also the bridges? In that story we read on Monday, we learned about a kind of metal that was used to make those ships. Remember we talked about it got really, really hot and they had to pour it, and then when it cooled off, that's when they poured it into those molds. Does anybody remember what it was called? What kind of metal was it? Starts with an S. It's Anybody remember? Raise your hand if you remember.
Sabowski.
Boris, do you remember? You have to unmute yourself. Do you remember what it was called, Boris?
Huh?
Do you remember what that metal was called that the ship was made out of? Ziad, can you help him out?
You.
Steal. Very good. So for the first question on the next page, we are going to write steal. Steal. Page 149, write steal.
It's our basket. Not done with the other.
Okay, I'll go back to it in a minute. Right now, just copy down from here.
Yes. I'm done.
Okay. You don't need to tell me. Just finish copying and give me a thumbs up. Steal. Good. Now, who can tell me, how are these two stories that we read this week, how are they the same? How are they the same? What was the same about the two stories that we read? What was similar about them? Hendrix, what was the same about them?
They were both about building.
They were both about building. Yeah, in the first story, we learned about building ships and what they use to build ships and how they build them and the steps to build one. In this one, we learned about bridges and how they build them and why they build them that way. How were these two stories different? How were they different? What was different about the two stories? Mariah, what was different about them?
I don't know.
Oh, well then why did you raise your hand? Goof? Who can help him out? What was different about the two stories? Akil, unmute yourself and then tell us what was different.
So the difference was that the two are different because they are different like different stuff. A ship and a bridge.
Yeah. Yeah, one of them was all about ships and how to build ships. And then the one that we just read is about building bridges. So one is about ships and one is about, this one's kind of a long one to copy. So write small while you're copying. Hang on, I just dropped it. One is about ships and one is about bridges. So on page 149, you can copy that down. Okay. Well, hang tight for just a minute, okay?
Where's the first?
If you are done copying, you can go ahead and log off. Don't forget to do your math homework and turn it in to me before tomorrow. If you are not done copying, finish copying, and then I'll show you guys this page, the last page again in a second if you didn't finish the last page.
I'm not done.
Okay, take your
I'm
time.
Mr. Browski.
Bye, Hendrix.
Bye-bye.
Honey, I know, I just said I'll show the other page in a second.
Bye.
Bye, Ronan.
Bye, Ronan. Can you lock me out, Mr. Browski?
Yes, honey. Bye, Ziad. Thanks for